What would it be like to be a true titan within the PR or public relations industry? Well, I do have some answers for you, and they come by way of this fantastic guest. His name is Eric Yaverbaum, and he is known for his out-of-the-box thinking and pure execution within the PR industry and space. Beyond that, he's the author of the industry standard PR for Dummies, which is now in its third iteration, which he is currently finishing off at the moment. He's also a New York Times bestseller and an author of several other books. Outside of that, he has this global client list with the likes of Sony, H&M, IKEA, and several others. And in this episode today, he was kind enough to drop by and share much of his career insight and wisdom and what he's picked up along the way. And he's here to share it with all of you. So if you have an interest in PR and you want to know what the lay of the land looks like, where is this industry going, how is it shifting and changing, those are the types of answers you are going to find. Now, I do encourage you to listen to the full-length audio version. There's just so much more that's contained within that as opposed to these short summary videos. And also too, while I do have your attention, I would love that like or subscribe. Okay, well, I think it's about time to get into things, so why don't we? Now, before we get too deep in the weeds in terms of what PR is all about, where it's going, and all that other stuff, I do have a clip here in which Eric is explaining one of the core fundamental understandings or philosophies behind good PR. And this advice or this insight came by way of one of his early mentors, the late, great Henry Kissinger. And also this clip, I think it speaks to the point of the types of people that Eric himself has been rubbing elbows with his entire career. So anyway, I do encourage you to listen in because I think this clip is absolutely fantastic.
When I was a kid, my dad would say to me when he would watch me on things, he'd say, "Eric, you never answer the question they ask." And I said, "Well, Dad, that's not the point. The point is the message that I want to get across." And for decades, I media trained for the first 20 years of my career. I media trained celebrities, world leaders, presidential candidates, chairmen of the Fortune 500. And I taught them how to take a question, answer it, and bridge to message. And I taught them about messaging so that whenever they had an interview, they could get the most out of it.
Yeah.
Fast forward, I don't know, 25 years later, I was having dinner with Bob Woodward. And I said, "Bob, Henry Kissinger told me this story when I was a kid. He told me that he used to go before the White House press corps." And Bob Woodward stopped me and he said, "And say, does anybody have any questions for the answers I'm already giving?" He did it every day. It was literally true.
Next up, I've got this clip here where Eric is explaining the current state of PR. And I think the lazy assumption for some who are outside of the industry, you'd assume that it's all digital. Things are going in there. It's all within social. That is where PR is at right now. And certainly there's some truth in that, but there's a lot more to it. And here's a clip of Eric breaking that down and giving his synopsis of where the industry's at.
We get so much of our information from surround sound information dissemination still from television. It's still very influential. If you're on the Today Show, you're going to have a bestseller, and you're probably going to move a lot of widgets or whatever it is that you're trying to sell. Still from magazines, still from newspapers, all the brick and mortar, just like the good old days. And then we have digital, and then we have social. All of that matters. It all fits together like this. I have clients from every generation, from every demographic. Some clients only want digital. Some clients only want brick and mortar. Some clients only want to be in the actual New York Times. Some clients will be upset if they don't see whatever they said in the New York Times spreading all around digital media. The intersection of all of these mediums, that's where the magic is in public relations. It's how do they all fit together? If you're on Good Morning America, just as an example, and I had told you a Good Morning America story before we went on there. If you're on Good Morning America, you might not get as many eyeballs as you're going to get from being on Good Morning America that spins all around social media. The credibility of the old brick and mortar mainstream media plays in such an enormous way in all social and digital media that it would be a mistake not to include that in your public relations plans.
As I've alluded to earlier in this video, I mean, Eric is ultra successful. He's highly respected in the industry, and I kind of want to get into that. I mean, what separates him from others? Like, what is he doing that is so utterly different? And his response was really insightful. And I think oftentimes, the difference between being good to great to being superb is these fine distinctions along the way. And I think this clip here kind of speaks to that point, as far as what it truly takes to excel and, deliver on a whole different plane. So check this out.
What I have found in practicing the art of PR is we're expected to deliver exposure. That's the bare bones minimum. That's what so many people in my industry think that we do. We get exposure. That's not just like books, PR is a means to an ends too. There's a cash register on the other end of PR. If you are getting exposure for your client and your client is fiscally healthy and you can contribute to their fiscal health, you will keep a job for life. I have clients that I've had for 20, 30, and 40 years. Not because I got them exposure, because I contributed to their fiscal health. That, I believe, is the role of PR practitioners, not just to get press.
Now, to add further insight and clarity in terms of what it takes to succeed within PR, here's a clip of Eric breaking down another core belief or core value that he has. And it's this notion of thinking outside the box. As I mentioned earlier, he has this reputation for doing so and doing so across his career. And that involves not being satisfied, of course, with the status quo, continually pushing the boundaries. So again, here's a clip of Eric breaking down that philosophy and how that's helped him achieve a certain level of success.
I'm writing about the box that I've invented, and I got to step outside of that continually, and I always will. I mean, I'm right now, the book that I'm writing now is PR for Dummies. The third edition is the third time that I've written it, and you can see how much the practice of public relations has changed over the course of 30 plus years. I'm literally writing my own theories, which becomes a box for a new generation that I have to get out of. I don't want to operate within my own box. I want to reinvent the art every single solitary year, bar none, every single solitary client, bar none. It's so much more fun that way. And the upside is, potential is so great.
Like a lot of industries, PR is also feeling the effects of AI. I mean, it's creating this sense of urgency, the sense of uncertainty, the sense of excitement. So I wanted to know from a person like Eric, what are his views on this? I mean, it's game changing. It can really turn the industry upside down. And when you're running a company that has been successful, how do you navigate that? What do you do? How do you view something like AI? So here's a clip of Eric giving his thoughts on this.
If you fear AI, you're looking at it the wrong way. AI is coming and it's coming fast.
Yeah.
Just like social media. Will you use the technology or is the technology going to use you? I'm a writer. I write articles. I write books. I'm not worried about AI writing books for me. I'll use AI to do research. Definitely. And do. So does everybody who works for me.
Yeah, of course.
AI is not ready for prime time yet. But all of that said, the thing about all of our lifetime, everybody, it doesn't matter what age you are, is we've all seen technology advance. We've seen it's advancing quicker. The biggest difference between now and, I don't know, 35, 40 years ago when we saw it too, when we first, my mother has a PhD in computer science. And she told me when I was a kid in the 60s, when you grow up, everybody will have a computer in their home. And I'm like, oh my God, my mom, what is she talking about? Don't say that to anybody else, Mom. That's not happening. The thing about technology is we've all watched it advance. The velocity gets faster and faster and faster. The velocity is breathtaking now. We've never seen anything like it. And you can only expect it to get faster and faster. Embrace it and use it. It will serve you well.
Now, I've got to say, one of my favorite things about this conversation with Eric, aside from all the wisdom, all the learnings, and all the stories, oh my gosh, there's so many stories that you have to check out on the podcast side of this. There's something else that I want to share here, which is this notion of a certain zest or zeal towards going after your career, going after your passion, something that you truly love. So I want to send off this video with Eric sharing some general overarching career advice.
When I'm talking about my experiences, I hope there's something contagious about it. Doesn't necessarily have to be about PR, just contagious about the fact that it's possible for all young people to know this one factoid. If you love what you do, and I love what I do, you'll never work a day in your life. And not only will you never work a day in your life, if you love what you do, you'll make more money than you can possibly imagine than working for a living. I haven't worked for a living a single solitary day in my life.
All right, well, I think it's about time to wrap up this video. But as I said earlier, I do encourage you to check out the full-length audio version. There, you're going to be able to pick up way more in terms of career learnings, insight, wisdom as it pertains to the world of PR. Plus the stories. I mean, there's stories about how he helped end the MLB, Major League Baseball strike, how he was at a dinner party with Super Bowl winning quarterback Joe Theismann and what ensued there. I mean, you are absolutely going to love this episode. And you can find it wherever you access your podcast. Just hit that search for Life as a ... And while I do have your attention, I would love that like or subscribe. And finally, I will have another video, another profession covered coming at you right next week. So don't miss it. All right, we'll see you then.